This is the Kiam Plain. The Israelis annexed this region and fenced it with barbed wire. They were afraid, so they built this wall. They were afraid of Hezbollah. This is the blue line, which marks the separation between Palestine and Lebanon. You can see the line in blue. This is a very important place for the honor of those who love their land and their nation. It's a sacred place. A whole army with artillery and finance couldn't put down a group of resistant fighters who love their land. It's proof that courage isn't a question of weapons or of planes or means. More than anything, it's patience and courage that make people strong. This is where it all started and ended.
This is where it all started. On the 6th of June at dawn, the Israeli army crossed over the Lebanese border. The Prime Minister Menachem Begin and his Defense Minister Ariel Sharon wanted to deal a decisive blow to the Palestinian resistance and its chief Yasser Arafat in Beirut. Operation Peace in Galilee would end on the 29th of September 1982. No one knew then that Israeli occupation of southern Lebanon would continue for 18 years. But above all, no one could imagine the position that a small organization of Lebanese guerrilla fighters, trained and supported by the Ayatollah Khomeini's Islamic Republic of Iran, would end up by holding. This party is Hezbollah, the political party of God.
The party, which was a sort of clandestine combat group, a resistance group, became a very big Lebanese political party, as well as a huge regional force.
Their strategic thinking, sacrifices, self-sacrifice sometimes, all played a role in Hezbollah's rise to power.
40 years after its first appearance, Hezbollah was no longer simply a resistance force fighting Israel. With Hassan Nasrallah, its leader, in the driving seat, the Party of God had radically transformed. It was established in Lebanon and the Middle East. Hezbollah had become a political party, an armed group, and also an economic and social force. It had become extremely powerful.
Did Hezbollah's enemies ever imagine that they would take the place they have, even though they did everything they could to stop them? I don't think so. I think they must have been extremely surprised.
I didn't think that Hezbollah would become so strong. I've studied their whole trajectory, and personally, I don't think that anyone could have imagined that they would become so powerful, even the leaders of Hezbollah themselves.
But 40 years on, Hezbollah now has to evolve in a context of strong social tension, provoked by the dire political and economic crisis which has struck Lebanon. The Party of God has always been secretive about its organization. But exceptionally, the party's fighters and supporters of both yesterday and today tell us what it was like before, what it is now, and what it could become. In Beirut, in the Bekaa Valley, and in southern Lebanon, they are the voices of Hezbollah, and they recount how things have changed over the past decades.
كيف ستورث الجيل الذي من بعدك كرامة وعزة وقوة؟
أن أخاطبكم من بعيد ولا عبر شاشة.
My name is Munif Naif Hamoud. I'm from Kfar. I was born in 1964.
Munif was one of the very first to fight for Hezbollah. Every single battle has been against his Israeli enemy.
Hezbollah is the only party that really cares about the nation. That's why I turned to them, because they were on the right track. When the Israelis attacked us, I was just a young man, and I realized how serious it was. We needed something to fight back with. There was no difference to us then between the Communist Party, Hezbollah, or the Ba'ath Party. We just went to whoever would give us weapons to fight the Israelis. We took the weapons without knowing who they really were. I was imprisoned because of it. And it was in prison that I was in contact with members of Hezbollah. And I knew then where the truth lay.
Khiam in the south of Lebanon is where Israel imprisoned those who opposed their regime. Hezbollah fighters freed Munif on the 25th of May 2000. He had been held there for several years. He attends every memorial ceremony. The ruins of the prison are an inextricable part of his life story and his commitment.
This place means everything to us. It represents everything in our life. We've suffered a lot, and so we've learned a lot. Obviously, prison's a sort of school, a second school, especially for the oppressed. I know that my commitment has grown. This is the right path, so we'll stay with it, and we'll challenge anyone who questions that.
It's our life, our ideology, our principles, our constitution. Each person defends his land, his country, his honor. That's what Hezbollah is. We join them to defend our land because there's a giant serpent living next to us, threatening us, our land, our sky, our sea. Hezbollah are the only ones defending our land. Without them and without the blood of the martyrs and our imprisoned brothers, we would never have been able to get our land back.
Between 1980 and 1982, before Hezbollah was formed, there were various groups of Islamists. And during the Israeli invasion in 1982, these groups all decided to resist. They formed a group they called the Group of Nine, because there were 9 people. They went to Iran and asked them for support, and through this cooperation with Iran and with training by the Revolutionary Guard Corps, they created what was later called Hezbollah.
By providing the group with weapons and training, Iran not only supported its Shiite brothers, it also had an ideological and strategic leverage point in the Near East. Abbas Musawi, a very popular religious Shiite figure in the Bekaa Valley, quickly emerged as the leader of this undercover armed group. He incited the future Hezbollah to recruit fighters from all over.
Fighters were everywhere in Lebanon, and they made up the core of the resistance. Some were killed, others are still fighting. A lot of young people had belonged to Fatah, a Palestinian group, and then joined Hezbollah. There were also young people who didn't belong to it and who were trained by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps in the Bekaa and in Syria, who became Hezbollah fighters.
When we set out toward the south, we wore our military uniforms and carried our weapons, ready for a long march through the mountains and valleys with an immense sense of spirituality. We were like tourists who want to see every nook and cranny and discover everything they can. We fought with this kind of passionate dedication. We loved it. We were happy to live like this. And when we were faced with danger, we loved it all the more. Even when one of the younger ones fell as a martyr, the others envied him, saying, "He went before me. Why couldn't it have been me?" You see, this was our cultural mindset.
In Lebanon, there were more and more attacks, not only on military targets, but also on civilians.
On April 18, 1983, the United States Embassy was destroyed by 200 kilos of explosives, killing 63 people, of whom 17 were American, and the list of other attacks is long.
Still undercover, Hezbollah blamed the attacks on a myriad of smaller groups acting in its shadow, but not under their command. Hijacking planes, taking hostages, eliminating any opposition. From Lebanon to Israel, Europe to Latin America, actions attributed to Hezbollah escalated. Eventually, the group would be classed as terrorists by the United States and other Western countries. Even now, the party vehemently defends itself by putting all its military action under the banner of resistance.
There is a terrorist state called the Zionist entity. This entity is called Israel. It has aggressed Lebanon for years, killed civilians, etc., etc., etc. You don't think we should defend ourselves? The resistance defends Lebanon from the Zionist enemy and from the terrorism that the West has created. Was Robespierre a terrorist or a resistant? What about French rebels? Charles de Gaulle, was he a terrorist or a resistant? Jean Moulin, was he a terrorist or a resistant? If you say they were all terrorists, I'll accept that. If you say they were all resistance, then we too are resistance. I'm going to speak in French. Don't the Lebanese, the Arabs, and the Palestinians have the right to form their own resistance? Only some peoples have the right to do this and not others.
And about the assassination of opposition?
Has anyone any proof of that? I'm happy to talk with you, but with science and with reason. Accusations, accusations, all day long and no proof. What does it mean? If you accuse someone, you should have proof. It's not only in Lebanon that Hezbollah is accused. It started in the United States, and then parts of Europe, and then some of the Arab countries. But do you know why? Because we are fighting Israel. We're really fighting them, and we will continue to fight Israel.
The party doesn't want to aggress anyone, but it doesn't want to be aggressed either. There's a famous saying from one of our religious leaders which says, "We are not for absolute violence, but neither are we for absolute benevolence. We are for what is right. If what is right calls for violence, then we will use absolute violence." That says it all.
After 3 years undercover, Hezbollah finally revealed itself in full daylight in February 1985, publishing its first political manifesto. The letter to the disinherited confirmed the party's agenda as one of resistance and to promote the Islamic religion in Lebanon. Hezbollah was now a military group to be reckoned with, and it had a plan. But it had more than simple armed resistance in mind. The 16th of February 1992 was a decisive moment. An Israeli airstrike eliminated Abbas Musawi, the party's general secretary.
El-Sayed Abbas al-Musawi was a religious scholar, an imam in Bekaa. He was also an activist. He was very popular, and when he was killed, it made Hezbollah even stronger.
Hassan Nasrallah, aged 32, succeeded Musawi, who had been his friend and mentor. Nasrallah held the honorary title of Sayyid, which is normally reserved for descendants of the Prophet. This famous co-founder of Hezbollah set it on the path of politics. To everyone's surprise, the party won 12 seats in parliament during the legislative elections of 1992. Nasrallah also consolidated the strategy and tactics of the party. Hezbollah attacks multiplied. They were better coordinated, better targeted, until the final victory over Israel. On the 25th of May 2000, Sahal, the Israeli army, had to withdraw from Lebanese territory, putting an end to 18 years of occupation.
لتؤكد أن ما جرى في جنوب لبنان هو هزيمة إسرائيلية كاملة. أنتم فرضتم على العدو شكل الانسحاب ووقت الانسحاب.
Hezbollah was at the height of its reputation, and Hassan Nasrallah, an exceptional strategist and orator, made it a legend.
That is, of course, the photo of Sayed Hassan Nasrallah. When I look at him, I see truth, rightfulness, strength, solidity, courage, and so many other qualities. You have to admit that the Israelis and other enemies respect him, and they also respect the Imam Khomeini. May God give the Sayyid a long life. May he always lead the party so it stays right and true. That's the badge of victory that the Sayyid gave to us in person in 2000 when Israel withdrew from Lebanon. It was a great victory, and a singular one. Only those who'd suffered from the situation as we did would understand its importance. The year 2000 was like a miracle. No one could have dared hope that Israel would withdraw without pressure from the resistance. Everyone said, the eye cannot withstand the big needle. But it did, because in the end, it was right, and what is right triumphs against everything. And as I already mentioned earlier, Imam Ali, the Prophet's son-in-law, said, "Do not be afraid to tread the path of truth, even if it is the one less trodden." That's what encourages us to follow this path.
Is your son afraid of Hezbollah?
Not at all. He already wants to join the ranks of Hezbollah.
Why do you want to fight?
I'll fight anyone who attacks us. Whoever it is, I will fight them.
Of course, I'm proud of him. He's always saying, when I grow up, I want to join the party either as an engineer or as a pilot and do something good. The younger generation must carry the cause further. You can never let up. Because if the party gives just a little, everyone will jump on us. The new generation has to hold up the cause so that we stay on the right road. They must make it last and make everyone understand that we will never allow anyone to attack us again.
Now that Israel had withdrawn from southern Lebanon, why was Hezbollah still there? What were they resisting?
And therein lies the question. Perhaps it is time to lay down the weapons. Maybe it's time to say goodbye to them and focus entirely on politics.
The party has changed from a military resistance force, or jihadist force, as Islamists call it, into an important and popular political body that has addressed the needs of hundreds of millions of citizens.
That's where Hezbollah starts to become a bit like a bull in a china shop. Perhaps certain members of the party should start to realize that the party isn't made for this kind of role, that it doesn't know how to do politics, that it shouldn't do politics, and that it should leave all that to its Shiite allies, like the President of Parliament and his movement, Amal, or to its Christian allies, but that the party itself should take sort of a back seat, a supporting role.
Hezbollah has become one of the largest armed groups in the whole of the Middle East. It has created associations in the health and education sectors. It is a state within a state. With its deputies and ministers, it's an integral part of the Lebanese political scene. But this choice of position is not unanimous and is creating internal tensions. Mohammed al-Jawari was among the very first fighters, many of whom have begun to have doubts about the armed group who have gradually become a political force.
"30 years ago, Syed Hassan Nasrallah was our friend. He came to our homes. He came here as one of us. We knew him very well before he became the party's general secretary. In 1997, the economic situation in our region was very bad. Our region had been abandoned, and there was very little development. In 1997, the people rose up. It was the revolution of the starving. Unfortunately, instead of defending these people and their legitimate complaints, Hezbollah stood against them.
From the start, mindful of the agricultural crisis which had hit Bekaa, Hezbollah decided to take a back seat, leaving the army to take strong action. Many Shiites felt that the party of the disinherited was dabbling in Lebanese political parlor games and saw it as a betrayal.
There was abuse of power and financial and moral abuse. Things were not as we had been taught they should be. They were no longer on the path that they were meant to be on.
Mohammed al-Jawari used to fight for Hezbollah. He adhered to its principles and obeyed its commanders. Now, despite intimidation and threats, he is head of the opposition to the party in his own ancient fiefdom of Baalbek in the Bekaa.
Look, this is where the bullets hit. It was a violent attack. During the 2018 elections, we were making a list of candidates. They harassed us, firing at our cars, on young people, even on our homes. A group of fighters came and positioned themselves up there, and they fired randomly at the house, here on the gate. All of those are bullet marks. All of them were fired at ground level. If there had been anyone here, any children, they would have been hit. I'm always very careful.
Mohammed is preparing the legislative elections in the constituency of Baalbek, which has had a Hezbollah member of parliament for 30 years.
They want to remain in power and govern us. Unfortunately, they convince people with slogans from 1400 years ago. Secular and religious slogans like, "Burn bright our religion, we are under attack." And what a coincidence. They only remember they're under attack every 4 years. At the moment, their deputies and candidates are going around the houses to say that the United States has launched an offensive against us.
Mohammed al-Jawari supports Dr. Saleh al-Shal, who is running for the seat in this Hezbollah-controlled constituency.
People of Bekaa, my big family of Baalbek, my candidacy is a cry against those who have robbed you of your civil and social rights. Citizens, think 1,000 times before casting your vote. Remember, who has blocked state institutions and abused its power? Remember, who implanted sectarianism for its own benefit? Remember, who blew up our capital city, Beirut? Don't trust them, because they are not worth your trust. Long live Lebanon, sovereign, free, independent.
When you see the economic situation and then the regional situation, and you see Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, I can see what our future will be if we don't want to choose something else. I think it'll be challenging, but we have to do it. What can I say?
Can I ask if you are sometimes afraid?
Of course, we're a bit afraid. Fear is normal, but we have to. It's challenging. We must try.
What do you think is the main danger in this campaign?
I can think of the worst. There'll be some pressure, some stress. It'll probably be psychologically challenging. I can't think further than that of things like the worst. As we say here, Inshallah khair.
My aim is to restore Lebanese sovereignty. At the moment, Lebanon has lost her sovereignty. She has been kidnapped by the Iranians.
Is it easy to stand as candidate in a constituency like Baalbek that's been Hezbollah's for 30 years?
It's not easy, but you have to start somewhere. We probably won't succeed this time, but it'll make a foundation for future generations.
It's at Baalbek that Hezbollah's story began. Populated essentially by Shiites, the region has remained loyal, but the economic crisis has affected all the religious communities with no exception.
It's true that during this economic crisis that's engulfed Lebanon, the mood has changed enormously, even in the Shiite community, our community. We see it when we visit the villages, when we meet people. It's become unbearable. The hunger, the poverty, the misery, the lack of work, the crash of the Lebanese pound, high unemployment.
We are not our own masters. An armed group controls the destiny of this country. It controls the politics of this country, its relationship with other Arab and non-Arab countries. So, no. At the same time, people are suffocating on a social level. The situation is no longer bearable. So, no.
ولجوهر ميثاق العيش المشترك إن لبنان هو وطننا ووطن الآباء والأجداد ونريده واحدا موحدا أرضا وشعبا ودولة ومؤسسات إن المشكلة الأساسية في النظام السياسي اللبناني والتي تمنع إصلاحه وتطويره وتحديثه بشكل مستمر هي الطائفية السياسية إن الشرط الأساس لتطبيق ديمقراطية حقيقية من هذا النوع.
From the outset of its political journey, the party promised to focus on Lebanese affairs and to promote unity in the country. But its presence within the state now associates it with a political class accused of corruption. In terms of resistance, it was meant to focus on liberating Lebanon. But it seems more engaged in serving Iran's strategic plans. Hezbollah exports fighters throughout the Middle East, and many of them return martyrs. In Bahrain, in Iraq, in Yemen, in Syria, in the so-called struggle against terrorism, the Party of God fights for a regime that represses its own people with violence.
Who intervened at the beginning in Syria? Hezbollah or the United States? Hezbollah or Europe? Hezbollah or Saudi Arabia? Hezbollah or Turkey? Was it Hezbollah or these other countries who intervened in Syria? The first ones to act created Daesh and the al-Nusra Front, who publicly threatened Syria and also Lebanon. When danger knocks at your door, you eradicate the danger.
Hezbollah can do what it likes, where it likes, and answers to no one but its Iranian godfather. Lodged at the very heart of the state, it seems untouchable.
Let's say it had become like the godfather of the system, the protector, the big brother. A Faustian sort of deal had been made between the Lebanese people's most hated political leaders and Hezbollah. It consisted of Hezbollah closing their eyes, and sometimes even encouraging the fraudulent and shady dealings of this political class. And in return, they said nothing about Hezbollah, but legitimized their weapons and regional strategy.
But like all the other Lebanese political parties, Hezbollah didn't see the revolution coming. Since the 17th of October 2019, the Lebanese have got used to demonstrating to denounce the total failure of the state and the corruption of its leader. Revolution or revolt? In Lebanon, the level of anger matches the crisis.
This is the failure of a whole system, one that's 100 years old.
Today, Lebanon is in total crisis, a total systemic crisis. None of the institutions function. The political regime has been decried. The economic and financial crisis is gigantic. We could call it a total collapse.
There are 18 communities in Lebanon, and each community has its own party, and each one is led by criminals. All of them are led by thugs. Basically, no one can earn a living, no one can eat.
No food, no medicines, no electricity, there is nothing. No one in the world can live the situation which we are live now. No one can hold it. We are hold it now, but tell what?
I want all of this kind of politics to go away.
In Lebanon, the 17th of October revolution called all the political parties into question, without exception.
Perhaps Hezbollah thought they could escape the people's outrage, as originally in its DNA, it was the party which always stood up for the ones they called the underprivileged, the disinherited. Also because they may have thought that their religious character made them immune in some way to the usual Lebanese afflictions, be it corruption, extortion, mafia business, and so on.
This people's revolt propelled Hezbollah into a local political agenda when they had been focusing all their energy elsewhere, like in Syria, the Yemen, and Iraq. Now they had to define their place within the state and draw up projects for a Lebanon in crisis.
The party's last political manifesto was in 2009. The first was in 1985. Should it be updated?
Absolutely, absolutely. Of course it will be updated, and it will treat all the events that have happened. Of course, we won't ignore recent events. Where there is a weakness, we will recognize that weakness. Where there is success, we will recognize that success. And when circumstances are against us, we will say so. We can't do everything, even if we already are doing a lot. A manifesto will be announced very shortly. It will be a political document which will naturally address everything, all the questions.
Can you give us more information about this new manifesto?
No, of course not. I wouldn't preempt His Lord Eminence, the General Secretary, by announcing anything. There's protocol. There are rules.
Hezbollah didn't give away any details of their new political manifesto, but they stepped up the number of meetings in all the Lebanese regions. It was time for Naim Qassem, Hezbollah's number 2, to mobilize his troops. Naim Qassem is a historical figure of Hezbollah. He is rarely seen in public and is highly protected if he is. His first appearance for the election campaign was in southern Lebanon, where he addressed on their own territory those who had made the resistance a legend.
We act for the independence of Lebanon and refuse to be dependent on a foreign power of any sort, under any pretext. The young people of Lebanon and all the Lebanese people are able to build and protect their country without administrative supervision. We take action for an independent Lebanon.
Munif wouldn't have missed coming to hear his leader speak for the world. He supports the party's line, far away from those who criticize and question it.
That's what interests me. He speaks of the people suffering, of their hardships. The people suffer from hunger, from everything. His speech focused on that so that people can breathe again and find a way out. Hezbollah follows through with its promises. They keep their word. Look at the other parties. No other party has done what Hezbollah has done. Particularly with supplies. Look at the ships of oil it imported. We were on the brink of war, and it did that, just to alleviate the people's suffering. The whole world opposed them, but they did it, and it was a good thing. Despite how hard it was, they did it. When Hezbollah promises, they keep their word. They don't let you down.
Even if the daily life of the Lebanese people is no longer full of empty promises, it is still full of hardship, and Dahive is no exception. Dahive is the southern quarter of Beirut and is heavily Shiite. The party has total control here. They've developed a powerful network of associations in education, health, and social care that serve the community. They also survey very closely what the people who depend on them say.
In my mind, I think there's
only one solution.
That
all the party leaders should go, so there's no one left to steal from us and empty the coffers.
When you say all the leaders, do you mean all of them?
When I say all of them, I mean all of them. Kick them all out.
The future of Lebanon? I don't think anyone can predict what the future will be. Even the politicians don't know where they're going, so how can we have any idea? If only they'd tell us where they're heading. We're born in a country with many different communities, and we don't want to live isolated from each other. I can't say if I'm from one leader or another, but whoever governs has to work for the country he loves, irrespective of his community. He must govern it well. It isn't right that one party takes everything for themselves.
Do you criticize Hezbollah?
It's not that I'm afraid to talk. It's just that I want to live in a country where I want someone to govern whatever party he's from.
So you don't have any comments to make?
No. No, I wouldn't criticize the party, and I'm not afraid to talk. I criticize the whole country, not the party. It's the whole country. All I want is to have a nice coffee in the morning, to have enough to eat, and to be left in peace.
These people of Dahive question the whole system. Criticizing is extremely risky, but anger is quietly building even in the ranks of sympathizers.
For the first time, the peril, the danger, is coming from the inside, from the core itself. In the eyes of its own population, its own roots, its own society, the people Hezbollah have resonated with for 30, 40 years, and for whom it invented a whole narrative, that of the disinherited, of social justice, of pure politics, etc. It's now in a very awkward position. In fact, they don't really know how to respond to this sort of crisis. Hezbollah has extraordinary military and security capacity and information. It may know how to do regional politics, but it knows much less about local politics.
Wasaf al-Haraki, a lawyer who was a prominent figure in the 17th of October revolution, defends a project for a civil and secular Lebanon, one that's open to all political persuasions and totally independent.
There were around 100,000 demonstrators on the square. It was a historical moment, the likes of which had never happened before in Lebanon. I think that in Lebanese modern political history, there will be a before and an after the 17th of October.
He sees this economic crisis as a unique opportunity for Hezbollah supporters to join this project.
I think that any political party is weakened when the social fibre disintegrates. This is what's happened to Hezbollah. Hezbollah is part of the people, but it's become weaker, and we need to use this in a positive way if we're going to rebuild the country. Hezbollah has the right to exist, and it has supporters, but we don't want its politics to be linked to a foreign country. We need to establish a dialogue with them, with the aim of building a state together.
Obviously, Hezbollah has to find a new party line, a new energy, which may come in the form of a new manifesto. It should integrate not only what it was originally, the party of the downtrodden, the disinherited, revolutionary political party, but also what it was in the manifesto of 2009, which was a brilliant Lebanese political player in a game that was dark, sometimes unclear, or even downright loathsome. It's the synthesis of all that has to be done today.
Until now, the party has been focusing on protecting and stabilizing the country, but it hasn't revealed its ideas to improve the system. How does Hezbollah intend to improve the Lebanese regime for the well-being of the people?
Despite a very dynamic electoral campaign in the Baalbek constituency, it didn't really come as a surprise when Dr. Shal was beaten by the Hezbollah candidate. But the Party of God and its allies lost the majority in the Lebanese parliament, perhaps opening the way to a political reshuffle. Instead of unveiling the new manifesto, Hassan Nasrallah announced on the 19th of August 2022 the opening of a jihad tourist attraction in the Bekaa Valley, a far cry from the expectations of many of the people. Everyone is wondering now how the Party of God, as a political party and armed group, will position itself in today's Lebanon, which must reform.
Hezbollah
has to understand that this country is Lebanon and not Iran. I would say to them, you have to take Lebanese society into account. We are ready to be your sword against corruption. We are not opposed to you out of hate. We oppose you for good reasons. We oppose you for the sake of our people, of ourselves, and of our children.